Whether you watch the anime or read the manga, we can all agree that the fights between Demon Slayer swordsmen and higher-ranking demons are epic. But what if things played out differently and the upper moons decided to face each other in blood battles in order to rise in the ranks? In this video, we'll explore that realm of possibility by breaking down how every blood battle would play out given the power level, feats, and fighting styles of these different demons. There are 5 blood battles in total, each featuring 2 upper Kizuki competing for a top Kizuki spot, and things would eventually lead to an epic brawl for the upper rank 1 spot. Yoko vs Daki and Gyutaro. We are starting off with a battle for the spot of upper rank 5 between the current upper rank 5, Yoko, and his challengers, the upper rank 6 siblings, Daki and Gyutaro. Yoko is a powerful and mischievous demon with a collection of sea-theme abilities that make him a twisted version of DC's Aquaman. Judging by their current rankings, he should be stronger than Gyutaro and Daki combined. But sometimes, rankings don't define how things would play out in all-out brawl between 2 fighters, and this blood battle is a perfect example of this scenario. This would basically be a 2 versus 1 handicap match, as Yoko would have to fight Daki and Gyutaro at once. These are 2 immensely strong upper moon demons that, similar to Yoko, pushed a Demon Slayer Hashira to the limit and were only put down due to the use of a Demon Slayer mark. So, Yoko would have to deal with not only the devastating blood sickle attacks from Gyutaro, but Daki's Obi strikes as well. Even if Yoko somehow manages to gain the upper hand, maybe by transforming into his final form, things would still be complicated for him as he'd have to decapitate both siblings at the same time in order to defeat them. So, it'd be pretty much impossible for him to win since he's battling them on his own. On the other hand, the siblings don't have such a disadvantage, and Gyutaro is definitely capable of decapitating Yoko since Muzan himself confirmed that Gyutaro should be higher rank but is being held back by Daki. But Daki would be very instrumental in giving the siblings their W, as even if she's unable to land a fatal attack on Yoko herself, she would distract him or hold him in place for her brother Gyutaro to land the finishing slash. So this blood battle should end with the siblings winning and advancing to the upper rank 5 position. Yoko vs Hantengu. Things would get even more heated for Yoko if he chooses to challenge his partner during the Swordsmith Village arc, Hantengu, to a battle for the upper rank 4 title. For battle, Hantengu creates 4 clones of himself, each having a unique devastating ability. But evading the attacks of these clones would be no problem for Yoko, as he could teleport to different locations using his face. While on the defensive, he could summon a swarm of fish monsters to keep Hantengu's clones distracted before he jumps back into the fight. Despite the claims that each of Hantengu's clones is upper moon level in terms of strength, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya managed to defeat all of them, so it wouldn't be a stretch to say Yoko is much stronger than them. So, the demonic Aquaman should be able to dismantle each of the clones and find Hantengu's real body. But that's where things go off the rails. Immediately, Yoko tries attacking the main body. Hantengu will combine all his clones to form the strongest variation of himself called Sohakuten. Despite being much younger than the rest of the clones, Sohakuten is on a whole different level in terms of strength, as he's able to attack with giant wooden dragons of his own creation. In the series, it took an immensely powerful Hashira like Mitsuri to keep him busy while Tanjiro slayed Hantengu's real body. But Yoko would have no way of doing that since he's all alone in this battle. Even in his ultimate form, Yoko wouldn't be able to avoid the brutal attacks of Sohakuten while searching for the real body. So, no winning this fight would be impossible for Yoko. Therefore, Hantengu retains his upper rank 4 spot. However, moving up the ranks would be a massive challenge for him as he'd have to face the upper rank 3, Akaza. Hantengu vs Akaza. Akaza is a demon we all recognize for having a basketball-like head, but in terms of strength, he is not one to be played with. Akaza is an absolute monster on the battlefield, as he's not only a master of martial arts, but has infinite stamina, as well as a bunch of brutal blood arts. he's wiped the floor with numerous Hashira, including Rengoku, who he turned from a flame pillar into a cherry donut. During the final saga, he was able to push 2 Mark Hashira level Demon Slayers, Tanjiro and Giyu, to their limit. Based on everything we know about Akaza, dominating Hantengu's clones would be a walk in the park for him. Even with their impressive abilities, Akaza would have loads of fun ripping off their heads one by one, eventually setting his sights on Hantengu's main body. As a last resort to save himself, Hantengu would combine his clones to create his most powerful form, Sohakuten, and that's where the real battle begins. Sohakuten's wide-range destructive attacks made trouble most fighters, but not Akaza, as his Soryu style and blood arts would be more than enough to counter those attacks. Akaza would then go back on the offensive and use his compass needle ability to locate Sohakuten's weak spots and go for the kill. But beheading Sohakuten won't be enough to keep him down, because so long as Hantengu's real body is still alive, the monster clone would regenerate endlessly. Akaza would pry Sohakuten's head off using several other techniques, but after watching him revive himself time and time again, Akaza would eventually realize he'd need to find and kill the main body. But that's where things get complicated for him, as he'd have to contend with Sohakuten's barrage of attacks while engaging on this search mission simultaneously. When faced with normal opponents, Akaza has the ability to sense their bloodlust and keep track of them during battle. But this poses a problem since Hantengu is no normal opponent. Hantengu is a disgusting coward who mostly runs away from battles, so Akaza wouldn't be able to sense any killing intent and find him. So, after thorough analysis, we believe this match would end in a stalemate, as Akaza wouldn't be able to find and destroy Hantengu's real body, and Hantengu doesn't have any move that's powerful enough to take Akaza down. Given that it's a draw, Akaza retains his upper 3 spot. Akaza vs Doma. Now we have arrived at the battle you have all been waiting for, the current upper rank 2 Doma going up against his upper rank 3 challenger, Akaza. These two had a slightly violent encounter during the Upper Moon meeting at the Infinity Castle, and since then fans have wondered what would happen if they actually fought. Unlike Akaza, Doma is an extremely playful and relaxed demon, but looking down on him in the battlefield would most likely cost you your life. Despite all his jovial antics, Doma can't feel any emotion, and this would end up being a bummer for Akaza. Because of Doma's unseriousness, Akaza would be unable to use the compass needle ability to target him. Another way Doma's personality would end up favoring him is when we consider the fact that he's spent decades powering up by eating women, which he claimed was the most selective, whereas Akaza vowed never to eat women. But it's not just differing personalities that separate these two. Their fighting styles are also very dissimilar and almost completely opposite. Akaza is a close combat type who uses martial arts based moves as well as shockwaves to dismantle opponents. Doma, on the other hand, has a demon blood art which allows him to manipulate ice and create a plethora of long-range cryogenic attacks which would deal lethal damage to his opponents. This would be an extremely tough battle which would require each combatant to get strategic in order to survive. Akaza should be able to counter Doma's long-range icicle attacks by destroying them with punches, and Doma would be able to protect himself by keeping his distance and creating clones to confuse Akaza. Since they are both amazing fighters, it would ultimately come down to who would land a deciding final blow to end it all. And Doma has a much higher chance of pulling it off given how complex and surprising his attacks are. Akaza's moves mostly come down to punching and kicking, but Doma is capable of getting creative with his ice manipulation, and that could help him behead Akaza. Akaza is probably aware of the fact that he can't beat Doma, which is why back at the Infinity Castle meeting, he didn't take Kokushibo's offer to challenge his upper rank's superior and take the number 2 spot. So, although this would be the most intense blood battle, Doma would end up winning and retaining his Upper Moon 2 title. But if he really chooses to get serious and aim for the number 1 spot, a huge mountain stands before him. Kokushibo vs Doma. The mountain is, of course, the Upper Moon 1 demon who's second only to the Demon King Muzan himself in strength, Kokushibo. In addition to his demonic powers, Kokushibo is a master swordsman who spent over 500 years refining his skills to total perfection. He's overwhelmingly proficient in total concentration breathing, as his blood art, moon breathing, allows him to create an endless amount of crescent-shaped blades which he could manipulate and attack with at will. With his incredible abilities, he's spent centuries slaying demon slayers and even killing a bunch of skilled Hashiras. Considering the level of experience and power he has, we could write this off as an easy win. But as said earlier, it would be fatal to underestimate Doma. This is a demon that didn't have the 500-year plus experience like Kokushibo or Muzan, yet managed to surpass every demon to become the upper rank too. Doma also has a bunch of Hashira defeats to brag about, as he defeated the former Flower Hashira, Shinobu's sister Kanae, and dominated other Hashira-level demon slayers including Kanao, Inosuke, and Shinobu. Given the range of deadly attacks and strategies, Doma is capable of using his cryokinesis. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that he has a much more versatile blood demon art than Kokushibo. He can pull off unique moves such as creating clones that are as powerful as himself, creating ice shards, and even releasing a mist of freezing ice. So, even while Kokushibo has incredible sword skills, it will be hard to predict Doma's moves and their effects. But don't forget that Kokushibo has also mastered the transparent world technique that would allow him to accurately predict Doma's attacks and find his weak spots. And Kokushibo's moon breathing was powerful enough to impale multiple marked demon slayers. So it would with no doubt be able to shatter Doma's ice attacks. So Doma would put on a great fight and even generate after getting brutally injured multiple times by the demonic sword master. But at the end of the day, only death awaits the ice-wielding jokester. So by entering the transparent world to predict Doma's attacks and using any type of 16 forms of his moon breathing, Kokushibo would be able to dispose of Doma and keep his spot as the highest ranked demon moon. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, like and ring that bell for notifications to see more videos like this, and I'll see you next time.